That first is going to be baselines on your torque travel, your shock travel, your compression, your rebound, depending on what you have to get. Your compression and your rebound. The SPs are nice.
Yeah, they are.
We're going to check travel and just kind of see where you're at, and we're going to mark this down.
All right.
14. So 14 out. We always take our measurements from our out model. That allows us to control exactly how much of the valving assembly is open. Typically you're going to see these matched, and in some instances you'll see that they don't actually have them completely matched to them, depending on like fine tuning. So we're going to go in. So that's where we started at. 1, 2, 3, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. And 14 is where? So we don't push it beyond. So we can say same.
Mm-hmm.
And then we're going to open these up.
Okay.
See how many total clicks of adjustment we have. 27. As riders, we don't feel a click change, we feel a percentage of change. So we have 27 clicks. So at 14, you're roughly the 50% mark, which is good. That's a good starting baseline.
That's where it was starting? Okay.
5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 7, 8, yeah, so 27. So we're full open on both sides, and now we're gonna do the same thing.
Yeah, I can hear it clicking.
Uh-huh. Mm-hmm. The nice systems, when they have a positive click, is really great because it allows you to have a audible and tangible felt metric that helps you control that adjustment. 11 on our compression. And the beautiful part about it is once you get it, it isn't black magic, but getting it set up initially can be a little challenging.
Yeah.
Okay, and we have 22 as a total. We're just going to verify that our other side is set up that same way.
Okay.
11, that should be where we're at, and that's where we're at. Okay. So you have 22 clicks of adjustment at 11 and 11. So you were set at the 50% mark, which is probably the OEM. Have you made any changes to the bike since you bought it? And it also,
No.
That's good. That means that we're at a good baseline.
Okay.
Now you have something else on here called high-speed compression. And high-speed compression is going to help control what happens to your machine as we move through a very specific set. Okay, so we're not going to be clicking, so we're going to go a quarter. I'll just come off there. It's a half. Quarter. 1. 0.5. 2. 0.5. Okay, so you were 2.5 turns out. So what we have is we have something called a crossover shim in your shim stack, and that is going to cause our high-speed compression and our low-speed compression to operate differently. So think about driving 35 miles an hour on the road here, and you go over a bump, and that undulation causes the valving to work, allowing fluid to pass through that passageway. Now you have a crossover shim, which changes your shim stack. So that second adjustment I was making controls high-speed undulations on the freeway, hitting a pothole at 70 miles an hour. Very different, but in low-speed compression, when it's compliant, go ahead.
Okay, it's my husband.
All good.
Tell me when you want me to put both feet up.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay.
All right, so I've got your bike.
Okay.
Now go ahead and gently stand up and then gently sit down.
Okay.
You're going to keep your feet on the pegs.
Oh.
It's going to allow a little bit of
Okay. All right, I'll do my best. I had a knee replacement 3 months ago, so.
You know what? Don't worry about
No,
it.
no, I can do it. I can do it. I can do it.
That's perfect.
And now down?
Yep.
Okay.
Just a gentle sit. Okay. So I'm showing about 28 millimeters on here.
Oh, okay.
You want to be between 25 and 35 mil.
All right.
Okay. You can go and put your foot down.
Got it.
Okay. Now, there's still some static preload on it. We're going to go ahead and throw both legs back up on there.
Preload back all the way out. Okay.
I'm going to give it just a little gentle push down.
Okay.
Settle. So now that see it coming back up to set, is there a number there?
32.
32. That's the number we were looking for.
Nice.
Okay, go ahead and put your foot down.
Okay.
So now we are done with that part of the front. So I can pull this off. Now typically...
You want me to hop off?
Yep,
Okay.
you're all good. You can pull gear for a minute. I know we're going to be in and out of the gear for a sec.
Okay.
But,
I will, because it's kind of warm here.
and Alex, if you don't want to know everything about what we're doing, let me know.
Yeah, I'm making a video, so this is pretty cool. You want my feet on the pegs?
Go ahead and put both feet up on the pegs.
Got it.
Right. And then you don't need to stand all the way up, but just a gentle lift off the seat. Just
Sure.
Here. You sit. We're at 33. Your sag is actually really good in the rear. So your sag number is pretty balanced.
Right.
Okay, go ahead and put a foot down.
Okay.
You are good.
Okay.
Now I'm going to set your compression rebound and get your figures in what I think would be an ideal manner.
Okay.
So we got about 5 revolutions and you were 2.5 out. So what that means is that you were sitting at the halfway mark with everything. So we've opened it all up.
Okay.
So with having it open now, our next step, we're going to get a little towel over that so it doesn't keep doing that to us. I'm going to have you throw your jacket, your helmet back on, just so you have like an approximate amount of gear.
Okay.
And we're going to have you jump on the bike so that we're able to get a static stag range.
Got it.
See you, brother? Okay. Does this pivot at all? Okay, I just don't want to mar anything on there.
It's just one of those phone mounts. Yeah.
All good. Let me do this. I'm one of those people that loves my bike looking as pristine as possible too, so.
What do you ride?
I have an Aprilia Dorsaduro 900.
Ah.
It's like a little Italian V-twin supermoto.
Yeah.
Very fun, very tall.
Very tall.
Fits a big rider like
Yeah.
me. But I can rip on it like I can on a sport bike, so it's a lot of
Okay.
fun. So what we're doing is we're actually pulling a little bit of preload out here.
Okay.
So when we are in our traditional riding stance, what you'll find is that every rider has a slightly different take to how they like to go out and commit to the corner. So somebody that's very aggressive will be a little more on the gas all the way up until that point that they're tipping off, and then they get into the brakes. So when you have a softer front end and you ride more aggressively, you get a lot more dive.
Yeah.
Your bike has a fair amount of collapsation on the forks, which is fine, but we'll also see a little bit of change with that when we start playing with the rear.
Okay.
So as of right now, what I'm doing is taking 2 turns out on each preload, and then we're gonna have you hop back on.
Okay.
And this is a level of preload that's been applied to your spring. So think about it like your spring is this long, and we're just compressing a little bit or taking a bit off of it. The more you compress it, the more stiff it feels, but you only have about a 30% range of that spring to be able to work with. The SPs come with some pretty good stuff in them, so we shouldn't need to even think about changing components out. But now at this point, we're gonna have you hop back on, and what we wanna see is that number that it does is it keeps your chassis balanced. So you notice how as the rear starts to come down, there's a bit of stiction on the front end, but then the front settles immediately after I do that. So what we're shooting for is to get your front, your rear settling at approximately the same rate, and that'll cause the bike to not have a yawing effect. So we're chasing chassis balance. When we're not rebuilding suspension with full custom components, one of the best things we can do is get a balanced chassis, because it'll work much better than having the numbers right per se, but they might not be within the spec range that we're looking for. So in here, you have this wonderful little preload adjuster. Now the Owens kits that come with these things, that preload adjuster is going to give you 10 millimeters of total adjustment from where it's set. So we have quite a bit of range to be able to improve what we can do with that. So before we take a measurement, I'm going to get some base settings again.
Okay.
So we have compression adjustment and rebound adjustment on this guy. So this is going to be our rebound control down here on the little knob, and then this is going to be our compression adjustment up here on your remote reservoir. So
Oh, I see.
2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. 18 out. Okay, we hear that starting to get low. We're gonna go back to 40. So about 38 was really positive. So the Olin system uses nitrogen pressure in the body to actually control how that rebound click feels effective. So you can rock it back farther than where it's meant to go. And we don't want to do that. So I'm gonna leave it at 38, and that's what we're gonna call our figure for this one.
Okay.
And that's our rebound. We were at 18 out. And then for compression, we're going to do the same thing with this little dial here. So we are going to go right.
Oh, see it? Yeah.
2, 3, 4. So you were 11. This one will have a hard stop.
Oh, it will. Okay.
22. So it'll stop moving entirely. A lot of times guys come in with their Olin's equipment and they think the shocks are shot, but it's usually just because the nitrogen pressure falls low, because Olin's takes a much higher pressure charge when we recharge the shocks, usually around 220 to 225 pounds. Some as low as 205. But a lot of our standard motocross shocks we're charging around like 165, and a lot of road race shocks like the ZX10s in that 175 range. So it's actually pushing the needle up for that positive feel on the click. So if you ever go to adjust this down the road and you're like, it doesn't have that click Tony showed me, your shock's just in need of a rebuild or a recharge. Little simple things. Okay. These are things nobody tells you at the dealer.
Yeah, that's for sure.
We were at 11 out, 22 total. Okay. I have all of the figures that we need now to see. So now what we're going to do is the same thing we did with the front. I'm going to set up our handy little tool here, and we're going to take a measurement from the rear.
Okay.
And we're going to find out what your sag figure is. This is a really great tool that allows us to work without having a whole bunch of extra sets of hands. Okay. And we have this subframe back here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to lift the rear of your bike just a little bit from this subframe. Okay. Let me grab Tony real quick and I'll have him give me a hand.
Okay.
We don't spend as much time sharing with riders. So there's a little silver line there on that, right above your spring, right? So as I turn this clockwise, this uses a hydraulic fluid assembly to apply pressure.
On that little silver thing right there?
Exactly.
That little skinny one.
So as we continue applying pressure on this
Yeah.
and turning this, what this is doing is it's pushing fluid through.
Oh.
So that silver disc is moving down, and you can see a gap increasing on the silver collar up at the top.
Yeah.
It has those notches, so it kind of looks squared like a
Yeah,
Tetris game.
Okay.
As we back this off to bring it back, you'll see that that starts moving back in.
Right.
Olin's creates these wonderful little hydraulic adjusters to allow you the ability to set your sag range up like that.
Okay.
And if it's outside the scope of what you as a rider need, sometimes it's a spring change, or you have to disassemble the shock entirely in order to get back to that point. Because your range is within that, we're gonna go to our first notch there.
Okay.
So where they have it set, you just happen to be like pretty well within sag, and we just took a little out on the front.
Okay.
But when you saw me set on your bike, you saw both ends settle kind of at the same rate. That's very good.
Okay.
That's super, super good. So now, I can start playing with the fun part. We are gonna begin. Okay, so how quickly that moves through the stroke, we wanna slow that down a little bit. So right now, we're fully open. So what I'm gonna do is go to fully closed, and all of our adjustments are gonna be made from that. Okay, so that's a fully closed. I'm gonna put a little more tape on here so we can record our new settings. The pressure this takes. So it's a much stiffer feeling.
Okay.
So what we're gonna do is we're gonna begin dialing this out.
All right.
5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So that's 10. So that's one shy of where it was. You have 22 clicks of adjustment. There's 15. We're gonna go back in to 13.
13.
Okay. Now we're gonna play with a little bit of rebound control, because the rebound circuit also affects your compression. So I've opened it up a little more than it was. So we're gonna bring our rebound all the way to the closed position. So you saw when I was bouncing on the bike, you notice how it sprang right back immediately?
Yeah.
Okay, so watch what happens now.
Okay.
You're gonna see the rear of the bike comes back at a much slower rate. There's nothing in here
No, it's just, yeah, it's fine.
okay. Should have asked that one. So now when we push down, see how the rear is a little sluggish? So that's your rebound.
That's my rebound. Okay.
Rebound controls how fast the stored kinetic energy in the spring, when it's compressed, will come back out. So rebound is really, really effective for controlling your grip. We're gonna come out to 10.
Okay.
Okay, so our rebound initially was 18.
Okay.
So this should still look a little slow. Okay, we're gonna come back just a little more.
Okay.
That's 15 out. liking that.
All right.
So we're gonna set comp to start at 13, and rebound at 15. Now we're gonna play with our front. Front's gonna be all individual adjustments. So it goes down pretty quick and easily. So what we're gonna mess with first is gonna be our rebound circuit on this one. So we're gonna bring these guys all the way in to close them. Very gentle until we feel that stop. Okay, so we're gonna close both off because I want you to visually see this. I really like sharing how and what we're doing so that you feel comfortable putting a couple screwdrivers in your bag and make some adjustments when you're out riding. We do a very good job as riders of knowing what our machine's doing, but we're not exactly trained with the language to communicate that to someone that's working on our bike. And until we've ridden a couple of times together, okay, can you see how sluggish that rear is coming back now, or the front?
Oh, the front.
How it's rebounding back up.
Yeah.
So it also is going to restrict a little bit of movement here. So we're going to come back to 10. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 on each leg. And then we're going to see how this moves. It's bouncing back, but I still feel like we can come out. So we're going to go 5 more.
Okay.
And through that, we should see it bouncing back relatively quickly. Okay. See how it's springing back?
I do.
Pretty quickly now, but it's not too quick.
Yeah.
Now we're going to start tweaking with our compression assembly. So I'm going to close this fully off on both legs. Some guys won't do this. Some guys will just go to the factory start because that's what the owner's manual says. I like to move every single clicker all the way through its stroke because it allows me to make sure it's working. You'd be shocked at the amount of times that usually older bikes, something that's new, you wouldn't have that issue with. But if a bike's 10, 15 years old and the suspension's never been serviced, there's a lot of times that the fluid is so gunked up, the valves no longer really work effectively. So no matter where you put it, it doesn't actually make a change.
Okay.
So I like to make sure that all of the machines work regardless. So now, can you hear that?
Yes.
That is a closed off valve restricting our movement. Can you see how much harder it is for me to push the front end of your bike down?
I sure can.
So a lot of times these will affect one another in the way that they work, especially the rebound circuit on an Öhlins rear. So starting with our rebound for the front allows us to control that a bit more. And your factory setting for this was 11 out. 10. I'm gonna go to 10. I like to start with round numbers. It's just, I think, easier for us to remember.
Okay.
And then we're gonna push that down and we're gonna see how much restriction this is incorporated to the machine. Okay. We can still see and hear a little bit of that,
swishy noise,
passageway.
that little whooshy noise.
And these aren't charged or purge shock, so what you're hearing is that fluid struggling against the compression. So we're gonna come to 15. 15 on both legs.
Okay.
And again, this is our low speed circuit. So you have 2 circuits on this. One is low speed, one is high speed. I like this a lot better.
Yeah?
Okay. It's very compliant through the stroke. It doesn't feel super harsh. You'll also notice that I'm not working it through the stroke with the brake as I'm first testing this. I'm gonna back our rebound off just a hair to see if we can speed that back up just a bit. 2 more. We're gonna go 3. Okay, and then we'll grab a little brake. Feels pretty good.
Awesome.
Feels pretty good. I think I like it a little bit tighter. We're gonna go back in 2. What we want to see is we want to see your front and your rear go down at the same rate and come back at the same rate.
Okay.
That's the most important part of what we just did.
All right.
Does it look like your front and your rear are matched to one another?
I think so.
Feels like it to me.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Your bike feels very, very balanced. Your front was a little bit stiffer than the rear when you arrived today.
Okay.
So if nothing else, a lot of times people might see these little individual changes as not having as much of a consequence as some of the big ones, like changing a part. But one of the most important things that can happen when you set up a bike is getting that balance in the chassis, because your riding weight is the only thing affecting it. It doesn't matter if I know how to ride a certain way and I hop on your bike. If your bike's balanced, I'm going to be able to ride it to an extent until I'm overriding the suspension. But if the bike is unbalanced, it doesn't matter if I'm a great rider or a new rider. It's not going to give and receive input from me the way that I want it to. So the chassis is going to be erratic, it won't be consistent. So just finding a way to balance everything out, and we've actually opened up your systems a little bit more. You're a little bit of a lighter weight, which allowed us to kind of remove a touch of that.
Yeah.
So most of your settings were smack dab in the middle. Every single one of the settings except the rear preload was changed today.
Okay.
And we didn't make huge changes, but as riders, we feel a percentage of the change that we make. So if you have 22 clicks of adjustment in, let's say, your compression cycle, and we were at 11 before, now we're at 15 open from that, we're 4 more clicks open. When you do the math on 4 clicks, that's almost a 20% change from when you arrived.
Oh, wow.
So when you start thinking about the percentage of what those clicks made a difference in, it's actually quite substantial.
Yeah.
It just allows us to make the experience better. And
Nice.
the more we can help our community ride more effectively, safer, you get to have a lot more fun, and it makes you safer at the end of the day.
That's right. You're
Alex,
awesome.
Thank you for allowing me to help you out today.
Thank you. Okay.
Now the big